everyone, here are the items you will need for this lesson. You will be doing a little bit of painting, so we will need a water cup with water. We will need a paintbrush and a rag or a towel. You will need a paint palette with an area to mix paint as well as a place to hold your paint. You will need black and white paint and the color of your choice. If you're one of my students, I also have a worksheet available for you to download and print at home. This is what the worksheet looks like. If you cannot print this at home, or maybe you're not one of my students and you don't have access to this file, you can always just look at that and draw your own. So this is just a simple version that is drawn on your own. Make sure you have 7 rectangles across the page, value scale up at the top, hue, tint, and shades. And we will be talking about those in our lesson. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Here are the vocabulary words that we will be learning in this lesson. We will be learning about value, value scale, hue, tint, and shade. So let's take a second to talk about what do all of these mean. Let's start first with value. Value is the lightness and the darkness of a color. In this image, this is actually a picture of a value scale. A value scale is showing us that range of lights and darks. So value shows us the lightness and darkness of a color, and the value scale is a great visual representation to show you all of those darks and all of those lights of a color. You can see as it goes across that value scale, it goes from dark to light, or if you want to read it backwards, it goes light to dark. All of the different ranges, these are called their different values. So let's talk about the terms tint and shade. A tint refers to the lighter colors. These are the colors that have been made lighter by mixing in white. When we mix white with a color, the color turns lighter. The more white you add, the lighter the color gets. On the other side, we have shades. These are our darker colors. We can create dark colors by adding in black. The more black you add, the darker the color gets. And in the very center, we have our hue. Hue is just a fancy way to say color. So in this lesson, if you hear me say, what hue are we painting with? I'm asking you what color. So we can take our hue or our color and we can turn it light and we can turn it dark. We can create tints and we can create shades by adding in white and black. So I want us to do that together. Let's practice that together. So to get started on creating our value scales, we are going to be looking at all the different parts first. First, see at the top it says that it is a value scale. This is, remember, our ranging scale showing us our darkest all the way to our lightest of our color. And the very center is our hue or our color, hue being a fancy name for color. So this is just our plain color here in the center. Off to this side, we have our tints, and you can see that it says light, lighter, and lightest. This is because tints are going to be lighter colors. They are getting lighter because we are mixing in white. Over here on the shade side, it's getting darker. Dark, darker, darkest. And these are called shades. So they are going to be mixing in black to create darker colors or darker hues. So let's go ahead and start with a very easy first spot we need to worry about is right here, our hue/color. This is just your plain color with nothing mixed into it. So I chose to use green for my color today. I'm going to take some green paint on my paintbrush. Maybe you're using a red or a blue. You take whatever color you have available. And we're going to paint in our first spot just our plain color. You can paint in the whole rectangle if you'd like. I'm just looking to see that you guys can make those different tints and shades. So I'm just painting in my little spot right here. So I can see that I have my hue or my color is green, just plain green. Next, we're gonna go ahead and start on the lighter side, our tint side. We are gonna be mixing up 3 different tints, light, lighter, and lightest. So let's talk about how we need to create these. We are mixing in white. We know that in order to create a tint, we need to mix in white. But we want to be careful that we don't go too much white right at the beginning because look, this one it says light, but we need to get all the way to the lightest. So if I put too much white here at the beginning, it's going to be really difficult to go even lighter than that. So I'm going to start with just my hue, my color first, and I'm going to mix in some white to it. Over here on my palette, I'm going to take a scoop of my green off to the side. Just a little bit to get me started. And I'm gonna go ahead and start mixing in a little bit of white into this to start creating my first tint. Remember to start with a little bit and we'll add more as we go. So I'm gonna take a little bit of white, mix that in. and I should see that it's starting to look a little bit lighter. Look at the difference between this color that we're mixing up and the color you have on your palette. Can you see that it's looking lighter? Awesome. We're gonna paint in our first little tint right here in our light spot. I can already see the difference. Do you see the difference between our hue and what's happening here with our first tint? It is getting lighter. So now if we want to create another tint that goes even lighter, we need to add in more white. So I'm gonna come back to my spot. I'm gonna mix in a little more white, stir it around, and check out what's happening. Can you see it turning lighter? If you think that maybe you added too much white, maybe you went too far, you might need to mix in a little bit more of your hue. So if I think I maybe want to see what happens if I take a little bit more green back into this, let's see how that looks. Ooh, what do you think? Does this look lighter than this color? Let's try it out. Let's put a little spot here. What do you guys think? Does it look lighter? I can definitely see it looks a little bit lighter. I'm going to mix just a little bit of this into it as well. And look at that. We have now created our next lightest color. So I have my lighter, and now I'm trying to go for my absolute lightest. I started making a nice light green here. Let's mix even more white into that. Wow, I can definitely see that getting lighter. Check out the difference now between this green, our lightest green, and our lighter green. Can you guys see that difference? That is a beautiful light green. So you can see now that we've taken our hue or our color of green and we've made 3 different tints: light, lighter green, and lightest green. So you can see that gradual transition in color. So let's look on the other side. Let's try out some of our shades. Let's clean out our paintbrush since we have white in here. We do not want to have any white left. So I'm going to mix it up, put my paintbrush hairs at the bottom of the cup, give it a stir. Make sure as you are stirring, you keep your cup flat to the table. And then you have your little table towel or your rag to dry it off. So I like to also pinch to make sure that I'm getting any water and paint out of there. So let's talk about how we're making our shades. In order to create a shade, we are going to be mixing in black. But here's where it can get a little tricky with our black. Black is a really strong color, and we want to add just a little bit at a time. If we take too much black on there, our color is just going to look black, and it's not going to look like a shade. So I'm going to start with my dark green. I'm going to take a scoop of my green over here to the side, and I'm going to start by adding in just a little bit of black. I'm going to take my paintbrush, I'm going to do a little poke of some black on there, just a little bit, and I'm going to mix that around. Can you see that green starting to look darker? Let's compare it over here. Can you see this green starting to look darker than our actual hue green? Let's try it out. Oh, for sure. I can definitely see it starting to look just a little bit darker. That little bit of black definitely helped. If you notice once you start painting there, maybe it's not dark enough, what can you do? Take just a little bit more black on your brush, a little bit more of your hue, mix those around. Can you see that your first darker shade, it's looking like a darker green or a darker version of your color? If not, try mixing it again. Try mixing it a little on your paper if you need to. You should be able to see your hue turn a little bit darker. But now we want to make it go even darker. So I'm going to take this spot that I made, add in more black. Little goes a long way, so I'm going to start with a little bit of black. Stir that around. I can definitely see it looking, ooh, it's looking almost like a forest green, looking good and dark. Let's try it out on our paper. Does that look darker to you? Oh, yes. Let's paint that in there. Very cool. So now I can see that I'm starting to go from my hue of green to a little bit darker, even darker. Can we make that go even darker? Let's find out. Let's take a little more black on our brush, mix that around into our spot. And see what I mean about black can be a very powerful color? It's almost looking like our spot is now completely black. If you look really closely though, it's a nice dark green. It's kind of like, I guess, what people would call a forest green. And check it out. I now have my darkest green. I even have my completed value scale. Let's see if I can get it picked up here. There we go. So I'll get it up close so you guys can see all the way from our darkest green across to the lightest green on the other side. This is our value scale showing us our range of dark to light. We have tints on our light side, shades on our dark side. And we have mixed up our shades by putting a little bit of black, a little bit more black, and a little bit more black. On the lighter side, we started mixing those by putting a little white, a little more white, and a little more white. I would love to see you guys completing your value scale and sending me a picture so I can see how you did mixing up your values. If you messed up the first time, try again. You saw how I would notice when I painted on my page, maybe I wanted to change it up a little bit. You can always mix, add, and add more to your page. You can't take away. So start slowly. If you need to start with just a little bit of black or a little bit of white and then tweak it as you go, that's fine. I would love to see that you guys have created some tints and shades. Try your absolute best. I want to see what you guys make. Make sure you shoot me a message over in Schoology so I can see these, and we will be using value in our next project. So today our goal is to focus on trying our best to create some of our values, our lights, our darks, our tints, and our shades, and then next time we'll start putting all this together into an artwork. I can't wait to see how you guys do. Best of luck. I know you can do it. You are amazing artists. I will see you next time.